I watched this video and it was about the Dunning Kruger effect, which is, I would consider, widely known and understood as a concept and almost a philosophy. I would also consider it a philosophy or a school of thought, probably would be the better way of saying it. And this video was talking about the irony of the Dunning Kruger effect, which it got me with the title because in my head, the Dunning Kruger effect is ironic in itself because of the way that I understood it. And what the video was talking about was the Dunning Kruger effect is not really what people think the Dunning Kruger effect is, and it just gained that meaning. And the actual studies of Dunning and Kruger, where they talk about the perceived performance versus actual performance in relation to how much they actually knew. So essentially, again, paraphrasing, not really doing the best, but if you want to watch the video, I highly recommend it. It's called The Irony of the Dunning Kruger Effect. It'll probably pop up because I feel like it was popular enough. If it doesn't, you'll find it. It's the little curve. And it was talking about the relationship between, like, if you don't know a certain subject, then you can't even accurately predict how well you did on something, because that would require you to actually know enough about the subject to not be in that area to where you actually scored. I hope that makes sense in terms of explanation. But that's why. So it goes like this. The curve goes like this. Like this bottom right here. I hope this flips right. Or if it'll flip. I hope it looks just like I'm looking at it right now when it posts. But because I'm looking at the camera, and regardless. So down here, if not, just think about everything opposite. If this looks weird, doesn't make sense. This is the left hand corner right here. And this is the y-axis. This is the x-axis. And so right here at 0, 0 is don't know nothing and then bad score. And it goes from here, goes up, then drops down, and then plateaus. So over here is the people that actually know a lot or are actually competent, and then they thought that they would do around average in terms of competence, because they assume that, oh, since I know this, then surely everyone else knows this. And then these people down here are like, well, they can't even correctly gauge how well they did or how good everybody else did, rather. So they are actually in competence at the bottom because of their score. And then they thought that they did like slightly above average or even above average, because they have no clue, because they don't know what it would take and how to gauge other people's performance under that same test or under that same whatever you're trying to measure. And the part that got me was, one, talking about how the original paper from Dunning and Kruger, it was more about competence rather than how I think that it's widely understood in terms of stupid, or like you how well, I guess I never thought about it in terms of stupid, but the video made me realize that that is, or that could be, how a lot of other people think about the Dunning Kruger effect. It's like stupid people think they know more and then they realize that they don't know a lot, but then they actually learn, and then they realize that, they realize they are where they are. So I thought about it more like imposter syndrome is what I connected it to a lot. Is okay, everybody has imposter syndrome, but the imposter syndrome is like, I already know that these people are better than me or seem to be better than me because I don't know everything that's fully required. So it's either I could be well ahead of where I should be or where they were at my point in my career or my point in the learning journey, but since I don't know the grand scheme, I can't correctly assess my position on the landscape of whatever the skill is, whatever the domain is, because I just don't know enough. And so thus imposter syndrome. Like, you can have imposter syndrome because, like, oh, I don't belong here. Why don't you belong here? It could be a multitude of different reasons, but overall the competence is a big one. So if you feel competent, then there's not much reason for imposter syndrome. But if you don't understand what full competence is or what the different levels of competence are, then you can't even assess yourself correctly. Thus, you're either going to overhype or underhype. And the overhype is where they call like Mount Stupid before the fall off. And then that's where you actually are learning, and then it gets over. But the cool part was how they were talking about that big dip from Mount Stupid that didn't exist in the original graph or the original paper. Like, it went up and then went slightly down and then plateaued. So the people that were average thought that they were average, and the people that were like got great scores thought that they were average. And so it was like the clear threshold of where they realized that, where one would realize that they have enough information to assess properly. But then human nature comes in, is all those people, once they know enough, they're like, oh, I know enough and I know that this is average. And then I don't know, I didn't think more into that, but that threshold of everybody else thinking like, no, we're average after that was like, wow, that's quite profound in the fact that why is the big dip there, and why is that like universally known as the Dunning Kruger Effect when the paper doesn't even have that image or that graph in that exact way. So I'm like, what the heck? And that gets into the main point for this video. The emphasis is you have to, and this is why I try to get the information for yourself and not just be blindly leaded into whatever is the consensus, because that may not always be the case. And some people do, and because of that, and because of the hive mind of society, or the 1 second of fame of the internet, these things can become true because of mass scale or mass belief, and it's not necessarily true. Like the Dunning Kruger Effect, it's cool because it's become a school of thought that is net productive, I think, or net positive. But at the same time, it's coming from somewhere that the name Dunning Kruger, it's a Dunning Kruger effect, yet the curve, yet the graph doesn't reflect anything that Dunning Kruger actually did, or any of their actual research, or any of their actual papers. And that's crazy. That's crazy. I wonder what they think about that. Like, of course, it still correlates loosely to what they were trying to do. And again, it's a net positive, I think, school of thought, but the graph doesn't match the research. And that blows my mind. It's like, I've been going around looking stupid. Like, not like stupid in the sense like actually stupid, but I have been going around looking stupid because if anybody that was more competent than me, like the dude in this video that did the research that was looking for that stuff, I had a conversation with him and I'm saying these things, he's going to think I'm not competent. And that's one of the issues that I have. Like, I'm competent, but I can't be competent in everything, but I try to be competent enough to where I am at that threshold to where I can understand that I'm either average, below average, above average, and accurately assess that. And those moments, and that's why I try to gain so much information. That's why I love learning. That's why I consume so much, good or bad, in terms of like media and it's consumption, because like that's the learning, that's the being able to be competent from knowledge and have conversations with people on many different realms and always have something to relate with somebody about. But the fact that that happens, and every time it does happen, because it happens often, but when it happens, and I try to combat it by doing all the consumption and doing all the learning, but when it happens, it's like, damn. I'm glad, or I hope I haven't ran into anybody that knew better and now they have a, I don't know, bad taste in their mouth because of my lack of competence or lack of due diligence in something that was I easily could have done my due diligence about to be competent enough, but I didn't. And sometimes it's not necessarily I just didn't, it's just I didn't know. Like in this case, I didn't know. And I trusted the consensus of people that the Dunning Kruger Effect was what they said it was. And it is, but it's not. And that blows my mind. How is it not? And what blows my mind is it's not, but yet it still definitively is, because people believe it. And it's a school of thought now. So even if it wasn't a thing, even if it wasn't real, even if it wasn't sourced in the truth that came from the research paper of Dunning and Kruger, it is. Now, a thought exercise, because I still haven't done it, in terms of I have it on my list of consumption things, or like go out and if you have free time or you're bored or whatever, go look at the different things, explore different things, dive into different things, and I have it on my list. But that's the thing, I can't hit everything on my list all the time, or else I'll just be a permanent just researching goon. Not a researching goon, that sounds kind of crazy. Researching goblin, I think that's better. I think that list exists, and on it is actually diving into the origins of Dunning and Kruger and what they actually went through and why and how did we get to the point to where now they have an effect named after them. You got to do that research yourself, because then you can decipher where things came from, what's truth and what's bullshit and what is fishy. And granted, it all could be technically subjective because it's you doing the research and it's what you believe, but at the same time, I think that that's the best way to do it in terms of what you believe, what your foundations are, and that might change your foundations because you learn something that is foundation breaking, and sometimes that's the case. I know that how awful that may sound, like you learn something that's like, damn, my whole life has been built upon this, and you have that access, you have that right, but a lot of people just choose not to. because they just trust in society so much. Not that I don't trust in society, but it's more I know how and I've seen how these things work. It could be something not true and be widely, publicly, colloquially known as true. And that blows my mind because true is true. And that shit's not true. So eventually I'll do more research. Maybe there'll be another video about it after I've done it. But just wanted to talk and get that out of my mind. That idea and that train of thought of, wow, the irony of the irony of the irony of the Dunning Kruger effect. Meaning the irony that the Dunning Kruger effect is ironic because it's the competence goes down once you know more. Once you're actually, the more competent you are, the up you go, then you go down, then you go back up once you actually get really competent versus the competent that you thought you were because you couldn't assess it. Then it's ironic because that curve going all the way back down isn't even a real graph of Dunning-Kruger. And then that's ironic because it may be that that graph is still relevant to Dunning-Kruger, but just because it didn't come from their research and it was picked up by the masses and twist and turned, that dip came from somewhere and almost memeified, and now it is a part of a school of thought that is net positive, so there's no real issue. But it's ironic that the society can change something that an individual did and provided as research, as intellect, as a output of energy to help better whatever into whatever they want it to be, like mass propaganda. But nobody thinks about it like mass propaganda, or do they?